Tiger Woods, from golf royalty to tabloid reckoning. Listen, Tiger Woods wasn't just a golfer, he was a cultural force. By his peak, he had 15 major championships and 82 PGA Tour wins, tying the all-time record. He was the face of Nike, Gatorade, and luxury brands. The first athlete billionaire in the making. Millions tuned in not just for golf, but to see Tiger. Then came November 2009. On Thanksgiving night, a bizarre car crash outside his Florida mansion sparked questions. Within days, tabloids uncovered affairs, and the story snowballed. Over a dozen women came forward. The press frenzy was relentless. Paparazzi outside his home, 24/7 coverage, and headlines that turned the greatest golfer alive into late-night comedy material. The consequences hit fast. Sponsors like Accenture and AT&T dropped him. Nike and EA Sports stood by, but even their ads paused. His brand value was estimated to have lost $22 million in endorsements in just 1 year. His marriage collapsed. His reputation, once built on discipline and control, became defined by scandal and secrecy. On February 2010, he gave a carefully staged apology on live TV. Millions watched. It was awkward, vulnerable, and left people debating, was it genuine or damage control? But Tiger's story didn't stop at scandal. Years of injuries, back surgeries, and doubts followed. Many said he was finished. And then, in 2019, he shocked the world, winning the Masters at Augusta, a comeback heralded as one of the greatest in sports history. In that moment, fans cried, sponsors returned, and his story shifted again, not just of downfall, but of redemption. In the long run, Tiger's saga changed sports forever. It showed how quickly celebrity culture can turn, how sponsors protect brands, and how public forgiveness often follows resilience and performance. Tiger Woods remains both a cautionary tale and a symbol of survival under the brightest, harshest spotlight. I'm going to tell you the O.J. Simpson story in the bluntest way. A sports legend, a brutal double murder, and a courtroom that split a nation. On June 12, 1994, Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman were found stabbed. 5 days later, the slow-motion Bronco chase played live on TV. The trial that followed stretched for months. Key evidence, a glove that didn't fit, and a verdict that divided America by race and media. Let's unpack how this case changed the country. O.J. was a national hero, Hall of Fame NFL running back turned actor. On June 12, 1994, his ex-wife Nicole Brown Simpson and her friend Ron Goldman were found brutally stabbed outside Nicole's Brentwood condo, a crime that shocked Los Angeles and the nation. 5 days later, O.J. refused to turn himself in and led police on a slow, live televised Bronco chase watched by tens of millions, a moment TV history won't forget. He surrendered that night, and the case went to trial. The 1995 trial became the trial of the century. 100-plus days in court, cameras in the room, and a jury that ultimately acquitted Simpson of murder, a verdict that split public opinion sharply along racial lines. Key moments shaped the outcome. A famous demonstration where gloves didn't fit, questions about blood evidence handling, and revelations of racist remarks by an LAPD detective, all used by defense and prosecution to sway jurors. The aftermath changed America. It exposed deep mistrust between communities and police, transformed TV news into 24/7 spectacle, and left two grieving families without legal closure. To this day, the case is taught in law, media, and race relations classes. Britney Spears, the conservatorship fight. Listen, Michael Jackson wasn't just a singer. He was the most famous entertainer on Earth. Thriller, Billie Jean, global tours. By the 1980s and 90s, his reach was unmatched. But alongside the music came shadows, repeated allegations of child sexual abuse that would follow him for decades. The first major case hit in 1993, when a family accused him of molestation. Jackson denied it, but the case ended in a reported multi-million-dollar settlement. 10 years later, in 2003, another case went further, a highly publicized trial with cameras, witnesses, and months of testimony. In 2005, the jury found him not guilty on all counts. Despite the acquittal, the damage was lasting. Public opinion split sharply. To millions, he remained innocent, a target of extortion. To others, doubt never disappeared. The media turned every appearance, every mask, every change in his appearance into tabloid fuel. Sponsors backed away. His reputation became as controversial as his fame was legendary. Then, in 2009, just as he prepared for a comeback tour, Jackson died suddenly at 50. The cause? Acute propofol intoxication only deepened the tragedy and controversy, especially as his doctor was later convicted of involuntary manslaughter. Long-term, Michael Jackson's story is a paradox. His artistry shaped modern music and dance, but his name will always carry controversy, a reminder of how fame, scandal, and public judgment can outlive even the world's biggest star. Harvey Weinstein, #MeToo, and the fall of a mogul. Power, silence, and a wave of accusations that changed Hollywood forever. This is the Weinstein story. For decades, Harvey Weinstein was one of the most powerful producers in Hollywood. Through Miramax and later the Weinstein Company, he pushed films like Shakespeare in Love, Pulp Fiction, and Good Will Hunting into award-winning status. To many in the industry, he was untouchable, a kingmaker whose influence stretched from red carpets to Oscars. But behind the scenes, whispers were growing. Rumors of harassment and abuse followed him for years, though few dared to speak out. That changed in October 2017, when the New York Times and the New Yorker published explosive investigations. Dozens of women came forward, describing harassment, assault, and an environment where silence was enforced by contracts, threats, or fear of losing careers. The reaction was immediate. Within days, Weinstein was fired from his own company and expelled from the Academy. The scandal ignited the #MeToo movement, a global reckoning where thousands of women across industries shared their experiences of harassment and abuse. In 2020, Weinstein was convicted of rape and sexual assault, sentenced to 23 years in prison. For Hollywood, it was a turning point, the fall of a mogul once considered untouchable, and proof that accountability could reach even the highest levels of power. Long-term, Weinstein's downfall reshaped the industry. Studios adopted new codes of conduct, conversations about consent and workplace power became mainstream, and the phrase #MeToo became a symbol of collective strength against abuse. His story is not just about one man's crimes. It's about how silence broke and how Hollywood and the world were forced to change. R. Kelly, fame, abuse allegations, and conviction. A chart-topping star accused for decades, how the truth finally reached the courtroom. For years, R. Kelly was one of the most successful names in R&B. From I Believe I Can Fly to multi-platinum albums, his music shaped the 1990s and 2000s. But behind the fame, allegations of abuse were constant. Lawsuits, settlements, and whispers followed him for decades, with critics accusing him of using his power to exploit young women and girls. In 2002, a videotape surfaced that prosecutors said showed Kelly with an underage girl. He was indicted on multiple counts of child pornography, but acquitted in 2008 after years of delays and witness issues. Many thought he had escaped justice for good. But the story didn't end there. In 2019, the documentary series Surviving R. Kelly reignited public outrage, giving survivors a platform and sparking renewed investigations. That same year, Kelly was arrested on federal charges. In 2021, after weeks of testimony, a New York jury found him guilty of sex trafficking and racketeering, with survivors describing a pattern of grooming, coercion, and abuse. He was sentenced to 30 years in prison. The conviction marked closure for many who had long demanded accountability. For fans, it was a painful reminder of how talent can hide abuse in plain sight. For the music industry, it forced deeper reflection on how stars are protected even as victims are silenced. Long-term, R. Kelly's downfall stands as both a warning and a reckoning, proof that fame may delay consequences, but it cannot erase them. Kanye West, Ye, Genius, Outbursts, and Public Ruptures. Brilliant, chaotic, controversial. Why Ye's clashes with culture keep blowing up online. Kanye West, now legally known as Ye, has always been more than a musician. From The College Dropout to My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy and Yeezus, he redefined hip-hop, blending art, fashion, and personality into global influence. But for all the genius, the controversies never stop. In 2009, he stormed the MTV stage, grabbing Taylor Swift's mic, a moment that instantly made him a cultural flashpoint. Over the years, public outbursts became part of his image. Feuds on Twitter, abrupt speeches, and shocking statements. His 2016 hospitalization raised concerns about mental health, which he has since spoken about openly. Then came politics. In 2018, Ye wore a MAGA hat and praised Donald Trump, dividing fans and sparking fierce debate about race and celebrity influence. In 2020, he launched a presidential campaign that was as erratic as it was headline-grabbing. The most damaging rupture came in 2022, when Ye made anti-Semitic remarks online and in interviews. The fallout was immediate. Adidas, Balenciaga, and major talent agencies severed ties, stripping him of billionaire status overnight. And yet, Ye remains unpredictable. For some, he's still a visionary artist whose music changed a generation. For others, he's a cautionary tale of unchecked ego and the dangers of a massive platform. Long-term, Kanye West's story isn't just about one celebrity. It's about the collision of genius, fame, and controversy in an era where every outburst can go viral in seconds.
Amber Heard versus Johnny Depp, the defamation trial everyone watched. A messy relationship played out in courtrooms and headlines. Who convinced the public? Johnny Depp and Amber Heard met on a film set in 2009 and married in 2015. By 2016, their split turned public and bitter, with Heard alleging domestic abuse. Depp denied it, claiming he was the real victim of violence. What followed was years of lawsuits and counterclaims, turning a private marriage into a global spectacle. The breaking point came in 2022 with Depp's defamation lawsuit against Heard in Virginia. Televised live, the 6-week trial became one of the most watched courtroom events in history. Every testimony, facial reaction, and lawyer's objection spread instantly across TikTok, YouTube, and Twitter. Memes, fan edits, and heated debates blurred the line between legal process and entertainment. Heard alleged abuse. Depp alleged defamation. Expert witnesses, recordings, and text messages filled the courtroom, but the battle for public opinion raged even louder online. In June 2022, the jury sided largely with Depp, awarding him $10 million in damages, while also granting Heard a smaller $2 million in her countersuit. For Depp, it marked a public comeback. For Heard, a lasting stain. The trial's long-term impact went beyond the verdict. It raised questions about how social media shapes justice, how narratives of victimhood are believed or dismissed, and how celebrity culture can turn personal trauma into viral entertainment. Chris Brown and Rihanna: abuse, forgiveness, and backlash. A superstar assault that sparked debate about accountability and celebrity comebacks. In 2009, Chris Brown and Rihanna were one of music's most high-profile young couples. Both were rising stars, Rihanna dominating charts with Umbrella, and Chris Brown seen as the future of R&B. But on the night of the Grammys, news broke that Chris had violently assaulted Rihanna in a car after an argument. The leaked police photos of Rihanna's injuries shocked the world. The backlash was swift. Endorsements vanished, radio stations pulled his music, and Chris Brown pleaded guilty to felony assault, receiving probation and community service. Rihanna, meanwhile, became a symbol of survival, publicly navigating trauma while her career reached even greater heights. Yet the story didn't end with punishment. In the years that followed, Brown attempted multiple comebacks, releasing chart-topping songs and performing on big stages. For some fans, his talent earned forgiveness. For others, the assault remains unforgivable, a permanent stain on his image. The relationship between Chris and Rihanna briefly rekindled in 2012, sparking even more debate about cycles of abuse, healing, and public responsibility. Long-term, this scandal became a turning point in how celebrity culture deals with domestic violence. It forced uncomfortable questions. Can abusers change? Should the industry support them? And how do survivors reclaim their narrative? Chris Brown's legacy today sits in tension. Undeniable musical success, overshadowed by the memory of a violent night that the public has never forgotten.
Lance Armstrong: doping, deception, and confession. From cycling legend to disgraced athlete, the doping scandal that reshaped sports trust. For years, Lance Armstrong wasn't just a cyclist, he was a global icon, a cancer survivor who returned to dominate the Tour de France, winning it 7 consecutive times. His story inspired millions, raising hundreds of millions for cancer research through the Livestrong Foundation. He symbolized hope, resilience, and human willpower. But behind the victories was a deception. Whispers of performance-enhancing drugs followed Armstrong throughout his career, yet he denied them all, often aggressively. suing critics, discrediting journalists, and even turning former teammates against him. In 2012, the U.S. Anti-Doping Agency released overwhelming evidence that Armstrong had orchestrated one of the most sophisticated doping operations in sports history. Stripped of his titles and banned for life, the cycling hero fell overnight from idol to fraud. Then, in 2013, Armstrong sat across from Oprah Winfrey and admitted what the world already suspected. He had doped during all 7 of his tour victories. The confession was a cultural earthquake, not just about cheating in sports, but about betrayal. Millions who once wore yellow bracelets now felt deceived. The Armstrong scandal forever changed how we talk about doping. It raised questions about trust in athletes, the pressures of fame, and whether redemption is even possible after a lie that big. Today, his legacy is divided. A champion of cancer awareness, but also a symbol of fallen heroes and the cost of deception. Ellen DeGeneres, Be Kind versus toxic workplace allegations. Her show preached kindness. Allegations said otherwise. What does this mismatch tell us? For nearly 2 decades, The Ellen DeGeneres Show was daytime TV royalty. Ellen's catchphrase, "Be kind," and her cheerful dance entrances made her one of the most beloved figures in entertainment. She was seen as approachable, funny, and deeply compassionate, a safe space in celebrity culture. But in 2020, cracks in that image surfaced. Reports from former employees accused the show of fostering a toxic workplace, with claims of bullying, intimidation, and even harassment behind the scenes. The stories clashed directly with the public persona Ellen had built, creating one of the most glaring cases of image versus reality in Hollywood. Ellen responded on air, apologizing and promising changes, but the damage was done. Ratings plunged, public trust eroded, and in 2021, she announced her show would end after its 19th season. What had once been a cultural staple now became a cautionary tale. The scandal wasn't just about Ellen. It highlighted how celebrity brands built on morality or kindness can crumble when behavior doesn't match the message. Viewers felt betrayed, not just by a star, but by an illusion they'd invested in for years. Today, Ellen's legacy is complicated. She broke barriers as a groundbreaking LGBTQ+ figure in television, but the downfall of her talk show reminds us, when image and reality collide, truth almost always wins. Mel Gibson, rants, DUI, and career fallout. A bankable star's private meltdown leaked into public view. How did Hollywood respond? In the late 90s and early 2000s, Mel Gibson was one of Hollywood's most powerful names. From Lethal Weapon to Braveheart, which earned him Oscars, he was a global box office draw. Audiences saw him as both the rugged action hero and the sensitive director with vision. But in 2006, his career unraveled in one night. Stopped for DUI, Gibson unleashed a drunken, anti-Semitic rant that was captured in police reports and made headlines worldwide. The incident shocked Hollywood not just because of the words themselves, but because they exposed a darker side of a man long celebrated as charismatic and likable. Years later, further controversies, including leaked phone calls with offensive language, deepened the damage. Studios distanced themselves. The once bankable star became a symbol of how quickly a career can collapse when private demons become public. And yet, Hollywood has a short memory when it comes to talent. Over a decade later, Gibson reemerged, directing Hacksaw Ridge in 2016, a film that won critical acclaim and multiple Oscars. It signaled a kind of partial redemption, though many still see his legacy as permanently stained. Mel Gibson's story is one of extremes: towering success, humiliating downfall, and a return that remains controversial. It raises the question, in Hollywood, how much can talent outweigh scandal? Elon Musk. Billionaire tweets, takeovers, and public chaos. Tech billionaire, controversial tweets, and a social platform in turmoil. Is fame now a megaphone for chaos? Elon Musk isn't just building cars and rockets, he's redefining influence itself. As the CEO of Tesla and SpaceX, he was already one of the most powerful men alive. But his late-night tweets made him something else entirely, a cultural lightning rod. With a few words on Twitter, Musk could send cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Dogecoin soaring, or crashing overnight. Investors, fans, and critics learned to watch his feed like breaking news. Some saw genius marketing. Others saw reckless chaos. Then came 2022. Musk shocked the world by buying Twitter in a $44 billion deal. Overnight, he wasn't just using the platform, he owned it. He rebranded it X and promised to turn it into a haven for free speech. But what followed was anything but smooth. Mass layoffs gutted the company. Advertisers fled. Rule changes rolled out and then rolled back in real time. Banned accounts were reinstated, sparking furious debates. Supporters hailed him as a visionary disruptor, while critics called his management erratic and destructive. Through it all, Musk thrived on the spotlight. Every headline, every meme, every controversy kept his name and his platform at the center of global attention. Elon Musk's story proves a powerful truth about the digital age. Today, influence isn't just about money or innovation, it's about attention. And Musk's megaphone is louder, riskier, and more unpredictable than anyone else's.